Sqilah, Enhancing Careers. Chapter 6. Types of Beers. Beer is one of the world's oldest and most widely consumed alcoholic beverages, and the third most popular drink overall after water and tea. It is produced by the brewing and fermentation of starches which are mainly derived from cereal grains, most commonly malted barley, although wheat, maize, and rice are also used. The two main types of beer are lager and ale. Ale is further classified into varieties such as pale ale, stout, and brown ale. Most beer is flavored with hops, which add bitterness and act as a natural preservative. Other flavorings, such as fruits or herbs, may also be used. The alcoholic strength of beer is usually 4% to 6% alcohol by volume, ABV, but it may be less than 2% or greater than 25%. Beer is part of the drinking culture of various nations and has acquired social traditions such as beer festivals, pub games, and pub crawling. The basics of brewing beer are shared across national and cultural boundaries. The beer brewing industry is global in scope, consisting of several dominant multinational companies and thousands of smaller producers, which range from regional breweries to microbreweries. Beer is produced through the alcoholic fermentation of a malted cereal, usually barley malt, with or without other starchy materials, to which hops have been added. Beer, or liquid bread, was known to many ancient civilizations dating back to 4000 BC. Since beer is composed mainly of water, the characteristics from the source of water have an important effect on the character of the beer. Many beer styles were influenced by the pure mountain spring water from their region. Among malts, barley malt is the most often and widely used because of its high enzyme content. However, other malted and unmalted grains are widely used, such as wheat, rice, maize, oats, and rye.
Hops are a relatively recent addition to beer, having been introduced only a few hundred years ago. They contribute a bitterness that balances the sweetness of the malt and have a mild antibiotic effect that favors the activity of the brewer's yeast over less desirable organisms. Enzymes in yeast, in a process called fermentation, metabolize the sugars extracted from the grains, producing many compounds including alcohol and carbon dioxide. Dozens of strains of natural or cultured yeasts are used by brewers, roughly sorted into three kinds: ale, top fermenting; lager, bottom fermenting; wild yeasts.
Style of beer. Pale lager. Highly carbonated, with mild flavor and a crisp finish. Blonde ale. Mild malt flavor with low to medium hop bitterness. Hefeweizen. A cloudy appearance and a prominent yeast flavor. Pale ale. Spicy, earthy, or aromatic flavors. IPA. A pronounced hop profile from start to finish. Amber ale. Malty with balanced hop bitterness. Irish red ale. Malt accented with caramel sweetness. Brown ale. Dark malt flavors of caramel and toffee. Porter. Notes of chocolate with mild roast in the finish. Stout. Coffee, chocolate, molasses, and heavily roasted flavors. Storing the beer. Beer's shelf life is about 3 months, and its quality is affected by both temperature and light. It is necessary to store the beer in a cool, dark place. Draft beer has to be refrigerated and finished within 3 weeks. Art of pouring the beer. The perfect glass of beer boasts a rich head of foam. It looks great, and by providing a natural cap for the beer's carbonation, it yields a smoother, cleaner taste. When you pour the beer, place the neck of the bottle over the edge of the cool, wet glass, tilting the bottle to a high angle and pouring the beer into the glass until you've created a fine, dense textured head. At that point, lower the bottom of the bottle to reduce the flow until foam nears the top of the glass. Leave just enough space for the foam to rise to the lip of the glass. Draft/draft. A beer that has been served from or conditioned in a cask, barrel, Draft beer is usually unpasteurized and suffers no loss of taste due to boiling. It should be consumed after being tapped and is generally truer to the flavors of the ingredients, as pasteurization exposes the beer to heat and changes the flavor profile. Draft beer should be refrigerated between 35 degrees Fahrenheit and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Above this temperature, beer may become wild or turn sour and cloudy in a few days. A keg of draft beer should last 20 to 30 days before it loses its fresh brewery taste and aroma. Lagers. Lagers are probably the most common type of beer consumed. They are of Central European origin, named after the German Lagern. Lagers are bottom fermented, where the yeast culture ferments at the bottom of the fermenting vessel. They were traditionally stored at a low temperature for weeks or months, acquiring mellowness and becoming charged with carbon dioxide. Although many styles of lager exist, most lagers produced are light in color, high in carbonation, with a mild hop flavor and an alcohol content of 3 to 6% by volume. Styles include Bock. Bock is a type of German beer. Bottom fermented, it is named for the famous medieval German brewing town of Einbeck. The beer has a heavier taste than most lagers, darkened by high-colored malts. Bock is traditionally brewed in the winter time for drinking during the spring. Many Bock beer producers have displayed goats on bottle labels since Bock in German means billy goat. Dry beer. Dry is a category of beer originally developed in Japan. The dry refers to the amount of unconverted sugar remaining in the beer after fermentation. In dry beer, nearly all the sugar is converted into alcohol due to long fermentation periods, resulting in a crisp, clean finish with less aftertaste. Pilsner. Pilsner is a type of lager beer. It was developed in the city of Pilsen in Czech Republic and is distinguished from other lagers by a more prominent hop character. Pilsners are the most popular type of beer in Germany, having largely supplanted the older styles. Pilsner stands out from other lagers due to its more distinctive hop taste. Ales. Top fermented beers, particularly popular in the British Isles, include mild, bitter, pale ale, porter, and stout. Differences among top fermented beers are decidedly more varied than those found among bottom fermented beers and are difficult to categorize. For example, California common beer is produced using a lager yeast at ale temperatures. Wheat beers are often produced using an ale yeast and then lagered, sometimes with a lager yeast. Other examples of ale include stock ale and old ale. Real ale is a term for beers produced using traditional methods and without pasteurization. Generally robust and complex with a variety of fruit and malt aromas. Ales come in many varieties such as bitters, milds, Abbey Ales, pale Ales, nut browns, etc. Mild. Mild is generally a dark beer developed in the mid-19th century as a cheaper and sweeter alternative to the dark Ales and porters present at the time. For this reason, mild was the most popular draft beer of this period. Once commonly found on tap, mild has almost completely disappeared from British pubs. Bitter. Bitter is a type of ale, originally derived from pale ale. A stronger version has become a popular bottled beer. The main ingredient is malted barley, with hops only added to improve the keeping properties and give a distinctive smell and taste. Bitter covers a wide variety of taste, aroma, and appearance. These include copper, malty, dry, and sweet, while some have the aroma of hops. Pale ale. Pale ale is generally a light beer, similar to a light mild ale, only drier and with a distinctive hoppy taste. English pale ales are golden or copper-colored rather than pale. The term pale is used to distinguish them from dark porters. India Pale Ale is a British pale ale originally made for export to India during the late 1700s, where refrigeration on ships was not available for the long voyage. This style has an intense flavor from the high alcohol content and high hopping rates used to preserve the beer from souring, associated with long storage times. India Pale Ale has a golden to copper color with a medium maltiness and body. The aroma is moderate to very strong. This version with higher alcohol content, 5.5 to 6.3% by volume, is also known as strong pale ale. Porter. Porter is a type of ale which has a malting aroma and hop bitterness. It is generally strong and dark and brewed with soft rather than hard water. Porter is an ale brewed with a special combination of malts to create a heavier flavor, aroma, and color. To complement this heavier flavor, porters generally have a fuller body and a slightly sweeter taste. Extra strong porter was called stout porter and eventually became stout. Stout, a dark beer made using roasted malts, and is a variant of porter beer. There are several kinds of stout, including Irish, dry, imperial, sweet, and oatmeal. Dry or sweet, flavored with roasted malt barley, oats, or certain sugars, stouts and porters are characterized by darkness in color and rich roasted malt flavor. Stouts often use a portion of unmalted roasted barley to develop a dark, slightly astringent, coffee-like character. Stout features a rich, creamy head and is similar to a dark porter, but is usually less sweet-tasting and more heavily hopped. Amber, a very versatile beer. Amber beers are full-bodied malt aromas with hints of caramel. These beers could be either lager or ale. Blonde. Blonde ales are very pale in color and tend to be clear, crisp, and dry, with low to medium bitterness and aroma from hops and some sweetness from malt. Brown. Dark amber or brown in color, brown ale have evidence of caramel and chocolate flavors and may have a slight citrus accent or be strong, malty, or nutty, depending on the area of brewing. Cream. A very mild, sweetish, golden style of ale. Dark. Dark ale is a British-type beer, combining hops, yeast, and a blend of malts. It's a medium chestnut brown color, with a delicate fruity smell and robust, malty character. Light. Extremely light in color and mild in flavor. Light beer has fewer calories and/or lower alcohol content. Fruit. Most fruit beers are ales, however. They typically do not carry an ale character. In order to allow for the fruit flavor to come through nicely, the malt's flavor is not dominant, and there is a low bitterness level to the beer. India Pale Ale. A hoppier version of pale ale. Originally brewed in England with extra hops to survive the journey to British troops stationed in India. Specialty beers. Specialty beers include a wide variety of styles such as strong beers, fruit beers, honey beers, bock beers. These beers range in alcohol content from 5.0% to 9%. Wheat. Light and easy to drink with very little aftertaste. Wheat provides a soft character to beer and is sometimes hazy or cloudy with a touch of spice notes. Beers may be categorized based on a number of factors. Appearance. The visual characteristics that may be observed in a beer are color, clarity, and nature of the head. Color is usually imparted by the malts used. However, other ingredients may also contribute to the color of some styles such as fruit beers. Color intensity can be measured by systems such as EBC, SRM, or Lovibond. Many beers are transparent, but some beers may be cloudy due to the presence of yeast, making them translucent. A third variety is the opaque or near-opaque color that exists with stouts, porters, schwarbeers, black beer, and other deeply colored styles. Thickness and retention of the head, and the lace it can leave on the glass, are also factors in a beer's appearance. Aroma. The aroma in a beer may be formed from the malt and other fermentable, the strength and type of hops, the alcohol, esters, and various other aromatic components that can be contributed by the yeast strain, and other elements that may derive from the water and the brewing process. Flavor. The taste characteristics of a beer may come from the type and amount of malt used, flavors imparted by the yeast, and strength of bitterness. Bitterness can be measured on an International Bitterness Units (IBU) scale. Mouthfeel. The feel of a beer in the mouth, both from thickness of the liquid and from carbonation, may also be considered as part of a beer's style. A more dextrinous beer feels thicker in the mouth. The level of carbonation varies from one beer style to another. For some beers, it may give the beer a thick and creamy feel, while for others, it contributes a prickly sensation. Strength. The strength of beer is a general term for the amount of alcohol present. It can be quantified either indirectly by measurement of specific gravity or more directly by determining the overall percentage of alcohol in the beer. Gravity. Measurement of the specific gravity of the beer has been used to estimate the strength of beer by measuring its density. Several different scales have been used for the measurement of gravity, including the Plato, Baume, Balling, and Brick scales, with the Plato scale being the most common modern measure. This approach relies on the fact that dissolved sugars and alcohol each affect the density of beer differently. Since sugars are converted to alcohol during the process of fermentation, gravity can be used to estimate the final alcohol. In beer brewing, a distinction is made between the original gravity, the gravity of the wort before fermentation has begun, and the final gravity of the product when fermentation has completed. Since the concentration of sugars is directly proportional to the gravity, the original gravity gives a brewer an idea of the potential alcoholic strength of the final product. After fermentation, the differences between the final and original gravities indicates the amount of sugar converted into alcohol, allowing the concentration of alcoholic strength to be calculated. Before the development of modern brewing practices and the complete understanding of the biochemistry of yeast, the final ABV of a beer could not be precisely controlled, making its value inconsistent and therefore unsuitable as a determinant for taxation or regulation. Contemporarily, though, ABV is often used to determine the duty on beer and Sqilah, and sales of beer and cider above a certain ABV is sometimes restricted or prohibited. For example, in Texas, beers below 4% ABV cannot be sold as stout regardless of other stylistic considerations.